that's the joy of online learning. Take lessons with a real human being.
Know that they will be eager to study with you to prepare for exams, be it IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge exams.
Irina, thank you, Irina. Look at his Minecraft, right? Yes. Please stop him. Please stop. Thank you. Good.
So, hello, Bernadette. I'm so happy to have this conversation with you. Your educational background, how did you end up becoming an English teacher?
How did I end up becoming an English teacher? Well, I've always had an interest in languages and people. And initially, I started working at a backpackers with a lot of foreigners, from France, from Russia. And I was quite curious as to how they had learned English. So I decided to do my TEFL. And here I am, passion for people.
Okay.
Initially, I joined an online company, and it was through them that I started doing the TEFL. So I was actively practicing English teaching while I was doing the TEFL.
What do you enjoy teaching most?
What do I enjoy teaching most? Vocabulary, grammar, everything.
So you don't have any favorites?
Quite an interesting question. Yeah. Now, I enjoy teaching the language, helping people learn how to communicate, go out into the world, build relationships. I don't think there's one particular area that I enjoy teaching, the most. And I mean, I work with quite a variety of students, exam, business, general. I love it all.
Like if you're a teacher, you should enjoy teaching everything that is connected with the language. And what about
about you? What
yeah?
do you enjoy teaching?
Well, as for me, I would say yeah. I've never thought about it. Like I probably do enjoy combining different methods, games, and try to engage the students. So yeah, it's more about like student oriented. So like to find something that will trigger their interest. And the most enjoyable thing for me is when they actually start doing something apart from homework, but connected with English. Maybe they start reading something like books in English or following Instagram of either celebrities or their peers abroad. So something like that, really.
Watching Netflix, I've actually I've signed up for Netflix and I've shared my account with some of my students to try to get them to watch English films and series. I said, watch with the subtitles, not a problem. Follow along. The problem is in English, when we talk rather quickly, we do a lot of weird things like linking. We have the schwa sound, fish and chips, father, mother, brother, So these particular sounds one needs to hear and read along with, So I enjoy it as well,
Mhm.
seeing that the student is enjoying learning a language. It should be fun, not a task. That's
Yeah.
why I like the PPP method,
Yeah, and what is your favorite methodology that you stick to? So many people are into that. Like they ask you whether like are you into communicative or can we
Fast-paced.
actually use translation or anything like that?
I think it depends on the level of the student, and not only the level, but what kind of vocabulary one is introducing. And if you look at a French learner, they are what we call faux amis, or an Italian learner. There are even some words in Russian that are, mistranslated if you just give them a definition. Like, I had a student tell me I was terrible, and they meant wonderful, terrible, or whatever. I'm like, My heart was broken, but it was a mistranslation. Well, I hope. You know, so but translation is fine, but not only that, one has to do a little bit of concept checking, provide examples so that the student understands what the word actually means. Sometimes translations can be horribly off.
Mhm.
You know?
And do you use any course books when you're teaching English?
Uh, Pearson, Longman, what else? Inspiration. I have borrowed from course books, but I love to create. So a lot of the time I might stick to the PPP method, you know, presentation, practice, production. It should be about 3 stages. However, I divide it up into, you know, 4 or 5. I always include a gap fill, an article that includes the vocab that we've looked at, and a lead in, you know,
Mhm.
to familiarize the student with the topic, the agenda.
No, I do
I
remember that.
sent you an example
Yeah,
of,
you wanted to share.
do you know what happened to me once? I joined a Zoom with a student of mine and like 100 Russian women
Mhm.
one Friday evening. And I had no idea what was going on because my audio didn't work and everything was.
Okay, so let's have a look. Like I don't know how to like what is there. This is some kind of presentation, right?
That is correct. Rent a granny. Don't you love that?
Ah.
Now you can rent a French grandma to cook for you. So what I normally do
Mhm.
when I create a lesson, I look for an interesting article, perhaps an audio file, a short video even. I love film English. However, one has to make sure that it's not too long. So you're looking at a 4-minute video, 3 minutes,
Mhm.
a short article. One can time it and predict how long it may take the student to read. So this is one of them that I found.
So how do you work on that? Like, do you send your whole presentation to the students before the lesson, or they are
Yes,
doing that during the lesson?
yes. And the thing is, because of the PPP method, one lesson like this, one presentation like this might take 2 academic hours. So 2 45-minute sessions, and then a review of the vocab. You know,
Mhm.
it's quality, not quantity. You know, and one has to remember that recycling vocabulary is essential. You have to do that. We are not computers. We cannot just download and store information.
Exactly.
Okay, so my preferred methodology is, of course, a communicative approach, all right?
Mhm.
Try to maximize student talk time. However, alongside of the PPP method, PPP, presentation, practice, production. Using topic-related vocabulary.
So
So
imagine I'm your student. How am I supposed to work with that presentation?
well, you'll follow me. So,
Okay.
just to give you a little bit more information about the PPP
Mhm.
method quickly, the 3Ps approach, is the most common modern methodology employed by professional schools around the world. Um, this method was created, I would say, round about in the early 90s. You know, it's a soft approach to the communicative language teaching approach, CLT. So it combines CLT and traditional approaches, you know, where you enter a classroom, the teacher has the blackboard and says, okay, here's the vocab, explanations,
Mhm.
write in your book, etc. Okay, so if we hop to page number 2,
Okay.
presentation. So this is how we would ultimately begin after having had a look at page 1, talking about what you think the topic might be about, what kind of vocab we might be looking at. So, okay, page 2, presentation stage. Unfortunately, the teacher might have to speak for around about 50% of the time during the presentation stage. You know, we're presenting new information, new vocabulary, or even a grammar point. So at this stage, after the teacher has explained the definitions, what vocab means, you know, and so on, we focus on accuracy, pronunciation by getting the student to read the vocab. So on page 2, I might say to you, Elena, please read the vocabulary aloud.
Mhm.
And
Okay, and I would just read.
yeah, that's what you would do. And I would listen. And very often what I've noticed, a predictor is when a student mispronounces a word, they don't know it, obviously. So then I would highlight it when the student is done, go through it, correct the pronunciation, and exact the definitions. What you can also do here at this stage, again, it takes a lot of talk time, is do concept checking. Tailor-made is something that you want particularly for yourself. It could be a jacket, a particular meal, not something ordered off a menu. So you can order it the way you want, the size, the color, the shape. So to concept check, I might say I ordered a meal from a private chef. It was tailor-made. What would you order if you were to order from a private chef, a personal chef, and you could order anything you wanted? What would you order that is tailor-made, made specially for you?
Well, personally, I would like to try something that I have never tried before, and maybe something like his specialty. Whereas I do understand that tailor-made probably according to my wishes. So, like, I will give him or her information that I'm allergic to bell pepper and tomatoes, so that anything can be included there. But for these mentioned vegetables.
Fair enough. All right. So after the presentation, we move on to either, I would say, a video, an audio clip. Again, not too long.
Mm-hmm.
Page number 3. Page number 3. So at this stage, I've included an article from Digital Trends. It's quite interesting, actually. So after studying the vocabulary, practicing the pronunciation, doing concept checking, the teacher would then present the student with an article, a story, an audio file, including the pre-taught vocabulary, of course, so that the student understands what they're listening to or what they're reading,
Mm-hmm.
you know. At
And
this point,
how do you do this
yeah,
reading task?
what,
So
what
do they
I do,
do they read
because
aloud?
this is for, yeah, the student will do it, because this particular lesson plan is for a higher level. Definitely not beginner, elementary, not for children. When it comes to children, I do the reading. When it comes to any level below intermediate, you know, pre-beginner, beginner, elementary, intermediate, I will read and they will listen. And then we will read it together. And obviously it takes a little bit of time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So with higher levels, I will ask them to read. So first of all, they would read the text silently to understand it, and then aloud. Corrections of pronunciation and intonation are done after the reading.
So when they finish.
When they are finished.
So it's look like it's a very short article, right? Only
It's not,
6.
yeah, it shouldn't be too long. I mean, one doesn't, no. I mean, imagine learning a foreign language and your teacher gives you 5 pages to read. What? Oh, well, no, thank you. Don't do it. The poor student. You know.
Do you have
And it's
some
actually
kind of...
quite an interesting article, really. And it gets them thinking, and that's what you want from your student. You want them to be curious. You want to get them thinking. You want them to think, what on earth is Bernadette making me do? What on earth is Bernadette making me read? What is this? You know, you want them to feel something. If you feel something, you're more likely to remember.
Exactly. Yeah, like
Annoyed,
emotions.
happy, sad, irritated. You know, I even have a lesson plan on refugees, which I find, you know, quite emotive. Students respond to it, and of all nationalities. You know, but also one has to remember that one has to be sensitive, you know, remembering the international nature of lessons, students that you're working with, the backgrounds. A topic like this, it's all right. All right, if we move on to page number 4, in the practice stage. Here, the teacher uses activities to practice the new language orally and sometimes in written format or typed format. So all of the questions obviously have to relate to the previous slide, you know, the grammar point, or maybe it was an article or an audio file. So here, the teacher provides opportunities for students to practice the learned items in a controlled way. So what I do here is I provide corrections and feedback hands-on immediately. So I might ask you a question related to the article using the vocab that I've pre-taught. Who is this particular service geared towards and why? And so on. You know, if the student makes a mistake, obviously you're not going to tell them, oh, that's wrong. You would rather say something like, you know, wouldn't we rather say this service is geared towards, what do you think? You know, so you don't look at the student and say, oh, that's wrong. You would model the correct way and or say something like, wouldn't we rather, you know, and sometimes even with an advanced learner, I will use TPR, really. If they're talking and you do not want to interrupt and they're looking at you, you can do this. Total physical response. Instead of going, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, but first you need to teach them what do you mean with those gestures, because I'm not a loss.
This is quite international. I would say. Stop, 1 moment, stop or talk, repeat after me or listen. I do that with children a lot, obviously. One would need to use TPR.
And do you engage with the student in the form of dialogue? So if, like,
all the time.
For instance, like personally, would you employ such a service?
What? Rent a granny?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness grief. To be quite honest, to be rather frank, I don't think I would allow strange elderly lady into my home. Also, I would worry for her security, you know? what has the company done, to ensure her security and do a background check? You don't know who that granny could be. She could be a criminal granny. But I would never, even though I think this service is geared towards people who miss their grandma and perhaps want to feel a sense of nostalgia and ask her to make a tailor-made meal that granny made for them when they were 5. I don't think I would employ this. It's not my granny.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't matter what the meal is comprised of. No. And also reading the article, if one looks at the price of the meal per head, per person, no, I wouldn't. Would you, Elena?
Well, I was shocked to learn about such a service and that it actually exists.
No, right?
I would probably understand if, like here in Russia, for instance, whenever you go, in a lot of cafes and restaurants, they call something home cooked meal or something. Like
Oh, yeah.
for instance, my son was once, like, as soon as he started reading, he read the menu and he read like soup like at home or something like that, like home cooked soup. And he said, "We will order it, mommy." And imagine his frustration when he was served a portion of soup that didn't look or smell or tasted the same way that I cook for him at home. And he said that they are liars.
Nostalgia out the window. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
just,
Elena.
like, but
And
they,
he's quite right. Good boy.
they use that such a trick everywhere here in Russia. So they call like home cooked meal or like your granny did it or something. But
Yeah.
they never knew your granny, right?
No, that's the thing with marketing and so on. They always want to try and rope you in emotionally or use a catchphrase or two, you know. But people don't fall for it. Mm-mm. Be real. That's the key
Mm-hmm.
to life. Be
Okay.
real. Mm.
So
I have the
like
same
then you
problem
have
here.
the gap fill, right? Just to
The gap
revise
fill,
for the
definitely. Yeah. So a little bit of further scaffolding, just to bolster the understanding and the use of the vocab. So here you can fill in pretty much whatever you would like, Generally, deliveries, services are geared towards people who work from home and don't have time to cook because it is more convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're lazy and don't want to cook like me sometimes.
Oh, so you're not a fan
So
of cooking?
I actually am a fan of cooking, but sometimes I feel a bit tired.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just order a burger.
Oh,
However,
really? Even a burger?
I am a fan of cooking. Yep, I've got no qualms with having a burger.
Okay.
I have no problem with junk food. I do like vegetables though, a lot. Yeah. Okay. Then the final phase is the production
Oh,
phase where
sorry. No,
there will
just
be a time. No, no, Elena, don't worry. I know we're pushed for time. Yeah. So the production phase is where I give you or the student a little bit of time to prepare a presentation, like an oral, like you would do at school.
mm-hmm.
Um, the difference, though, with private lessons online is you are given feedback. You are told what the grammar errors are and how to correct them. So it's not like at school, where the teacher goes, "Oh, you got 5 out of 10," and you are given no feedback, no
Mm-hmm.
assistance, nothing. You are given that.
That's really great that you do provide feedback
course,
about
one
it.
must. Yeah, and I mean, that's the joy of online learning. You know, it's not, I mean, the PPP method is similar to what one would have had in a traditional classroom. However, it's hands-on, and you can ask the teacher questions as you go along. The teacher will give you feedback. It's way better. Yeah, and it's more colorful.
So could you please tell us about the city you live in?
Oh, Port Elizabeth. What would you like to know? Could you tell us? Such an open question. My goodness, I could. I live in a coastal city. It's known as the Windy City and the Friendly City. It's quite beautiful. Not too big. It would take one round about 15 to 20 minutes to get anywhere. Even in rush hour traffic, we don't really have traffic. It's wonderful. If you order a burger, it will arrive in 5 minutes.
There are benefits in living in small towns, but yeah. So, like, are there any peculiarities of English in your area?
Oh, a lot. Oh my goodness. Do you mean dialect, accent?
Yeah, or maybe even special idioms, something to learn.
You know what? I would not really teach the dialect that is particular or specific to this area or country. I would rather focus on British English, you know, or American English, rather than teaching one particular little dialect, unless you plan on moving here and living here.
Or traveling.
You know, well, if you travel, you might hear people use a combination of English and Afrikaans. Afrikaans is one of the 11 official languages of Southern Africa.
And did you have to
English people
did you have to
British
learn it
English.
at school?
I did. Oh, it's a lot like Dutch meets German and goes for coffee. Yeah. There are double negatives. There's a lot of slang. It's an unusual language.
How many foreign languages can you speak?
I speak a little bit of a lot. I never finish what I start language-wise because I become curious and then I want a bite of this apple and that apple, and you know, a little bit of French. I'm learning French. One of my students actually is trying to help me. She's giving me homework. Oh goodness, I must still do my homework. So I have to give her a presentation in our next, actually after our next English lesson together. Ooh. I can speak a tiny bit of German. I can understand it when I hear it a little. I love Russian, but it's so hard. I mean, like I could say, Привет, дорогая, как прошел твой день? And a couple of other things. Like I learned how to say, I have a headache. Меня била голова.
Болела.
У меня болит голова. Да? Нет? Да? Yeah. Yeah. Because I used to be prone to migraines. So, yeah. But Afrikaans, I'm bilingual actually. I can speak Afrikaans fluently, and of course I'm English. So, yeah.
Okay.
I can put on an Italian accent. What about you? How many languages do you speak, Elena?
Oh, I also like Spanish. So
Oh, it's beautiful
it's
here.
one of my passions. But at the
Really?
moment, I decided, yeah, to stop having Spanish lessons because, because
Oh,
it has started actually interfering with my speaking English. And that can be
oh
quite
dear.
embarrassing, like when you're supposed to teach English and the first thing that comes to your mind is in Spanish, and it's kind of awkward.
I do that sometimes in English lessons for fun. Like, oh mon Dieu, bonjour, ça va? No. I flip off in other languages for fun, just to tease, you know. You shouldn't feel bad about that. That's a
Well,
sign of like bilingualism or you're a polyglot. Polyglot.
no, I'm not. I think that a polyglot is someone who speaks, I don't know, maybe 5
Well,
languages.
more than, well, 3 or more, I would say. Okay? No. Yes?
Okay.
Poly, 3 or more, but fluently. Yeah.
I'm not
I
one.
can say 3 or more words in other languages.
Then you can consider yourself to be one.
No.
So you've
Oh,
mentioned that you also have experience preparing for exams. Can you
yes,
please dwell on that a little bit, shed light on which
well on
exams?
it. All right, what would you like to know? Recently, one of my students got his 7.5 for IELTS.
Mm-hmm.
His score before had not been that. I'm not going to mention what it was, but he did quite well. It's not my fault, it's his fault. He worked really hard. Yes, so I do assign a lot of essays. I usually recommend using a template, actually.
Okay,
Does
it's
help.
like,
Just to
yeah.
practice, coordinating conjunctions, typical expressions, and to get your word count up. Because
Mm-hmm.
remember, you've got to write over 250 or so words for the essay. Also,
Like
one
that
can
that kind
practice
of
using
template, like
templates.
I yeah, are there several? Because there can be several
Yes, it
types
depends
of,
on the
yeah.
essay. Yeah, they're opinion-related essays. I mean, they're essays where they'll give you a statement and you've got to agree or disagree.
Mm-hmm.
So one could get away with practicing one template and using it for all, but one has to up your vocab count. And not only that, but if you are a Russian language learner, I've noticed you are very naughty with your articles because you don't have them.
A lot of students, they know the rules. They can recite probably them by heart, but what they really lack is practicing and also practice of noticing even. Like when we are speaking, we don't notice that we omit them simply because we maybe we still continue thinking in Russian and we don't have them in Russian. And I know that for English speakers, like articles, I consider something to be so easy, like elementary levels. Students should be able to do, right, to cope with. But sometimes even advanced students still have difficulties if they are from Russia.
Well, I've got a couple of advanced and upper intermediate Russian English language learners, and they do make a couple of little errors. So what I do is while they're talking, I don't interrupt. I type
Mm-hmm.
and I will say, please look at the chat. Pay attention to the chat. Some students don't want to use camera. Some do. If you don't want to use a camera in the lesson, not a problem. It's not the end of the world. It's fine. However, I get the student to type corrections. I believe in repetition.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, repetition is gateway. It is the doorway. We are not computers. Yeah. And
And speaking about IELTS preparation from your experience and like, what's your opinion? How much time is needed for preparation?
I had a student come to me and say, oh, I want to take it in 3 months. So initially, when I have a student, I do what's called a needs analysis. It will take anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, depending on who you are, your level, what you need, etc. So I do the needs analysis. I ask you a question, I listen, and I type. Mute the mic and type. This student wanted to do it in 3 months, and the amount of errors and the lack of vocab that I had heard during that lesson made my skin crawl. So at the end, I said, you know, to be quite frank, one would need anywhere between 6 months to a year and a half to properly prepare for the IELTS. There are native English speakers that do the IELTS and get a 5 or a 6. That's a horrible, disgusting score for a native English speaker. It's because they're lazy.
Have you really
heard of it? And they do
of
not use a variety. Yes, I've heard of it before. I have. The problem is when it comes to writing and the speaking, they get lazy. I'm native. Do it. No. You need to understand that we have perfect tenses in English that one has to employ. There are conditionals. I mean,
And why on earth would they take IELTS exam?
Immigration, especially if you live here and you want to go to America, but you're classified as South African. However, your first language is English, but you're not that good at it. Or you classify as a first language speaker, but you're actually born Afrikaans. So it depends on where you live, really. If you're from Canada even, but you're partially Quebec or whatever, you might have to do an IELTS if you want to go to America. Depends on where you live. It really depends.
Oh, I haven't thought of it.
I mean, yes, you know, I have a lot of friends that are Afrikaans. They speak English as a first language. However, I have to hold back on correcting them every third sentence. I'm not being rude. It's because I teach English every day and I can't resist it.
No, they say that there is such a problem mentioned in psychology, like professional deformation.
Yes, I have it.
Like when you cannot get rid of your habit of correcting everyone's mistake.
Do you have that, Elaine?
Yeah, I do. And sometimes when I have to be in a group and and be in the role of a student, it's so difficult for me, like almost impossible, not to say anything about the mistake that my peer has made or something like that. Yeah.
It really is. I know how it feels. I know. And I mean, I have some friends that live here that, you know, maybe from Sweden even. Here. Here, why?
What's your attitude like to how many essays should a person write, or how often?
How many?
Yeah.
Oh, look, realistically, we all work and we have lives. Some people have children, you've got husbands or boyfriends or fiancés, you know. However, think about why you want to do your IELTS and think it's only going to be 1 year of my time or 6 months of my time. I can afford to do 3 essays a week. 3. Just 1, 2, 3. That's for a busy. That's for a busy individual. Because you will have other homework, you know. Audios that will be sent by me or your teacher, and it should be like that. Example essays. Your teacher should even record samples of answering cue cards and send it to you. I have done that before.
That's wonderful. You know, sometimes they don't show the example, like, and we really want to hear that. Like, what is the sample of band 9, for instance? Like, to have an idea. And what about your aptitude?
Are you asking me?
What about doing the tests? You know, sometimes students come to you and they think that if they need to get a certain score, the only thing they need to do is just do practice tests, like nothing else. What do you say to such students?
Take lessons with a real human being. It's important. It's also important so that you don't feel nervous, because it's completely nerve-wracking talking to a stranger on the day of the test and you're sitting around other people looking at them, unless you're doing IBT, you know, internet-based test. Some people, well, now one might have to. So still, it's nerve-wracking. Like imagine you are talking to a computer program and it just bleeps off. Bloop. Is my time over? You only get 2 minutes to talk and like 1 minute to prepare. Your teacher can help you with note taking, how to time yourself, how to get a feeling of when it's nearly that 2-minute period, you know, even during the listening part, well, especially, it's hard. You can't just do practice tests online, well, unless you are a superwoman.
And what is more important, having a good English level or knowing the strategies, you know, certain constructions like
Well,
you
you have to familiarize yourself with the structure of the exam, all of them. You know, if you're doing FCE, if you're doing IELTS, if you're doing CAE, TOEIC, TOEFL. I've prepared students for a variety.
So you also
However,
have experience preparing for Cambridge exams.
Yeah, yes. I would actually recommend doing something like the CAE or FCE rather, you know. One has to look at the exams and also think about expiration dates. Not only that, though, look, I think it's quite relevant that it would expire within 2 years, and then you would have to go back and test your English again.
What about TOEFL? Do you have experience preparing for TOEFL?
Yes. Oh, headache. Yeah. I don't even enjoy it, but I do it. So, yeah. I just remind students, I'm not enjoying this process either, but we can make it fun. Come on. Yeah, because you can. Learning can be fun. You know, who does like exams? Students do that if they want to go and study at university anyway. So it's logical as to why the layout of the exam would be the way that it is, where you listen to monologues. Or, you know, it's testing your ability to sit in a lecture, listen to a lecturer, and be able to take notes and understand what's going on. Or even a simple phone call between two people and a couple of dates, like, see you on the 4th of May. No, I'd rather have it Wednesday at 8, you know. And if one can't understand these simple things, how are you going to get by in another country, in real life, you know? So the exams, who does like exams?
But you do
English,
like preparing for them, right?
I like, yeah, but I'm not doing them. You got to do them. So, oh no, I'm teasing. No, I support my students all the way, and yeah, you know.
What about job interview preparation?
Oh, I've done plenty. Yes. Oh, that's fun.
Say that it might be even more frightening for some people.
A lot of students get stuck, you know, when they're presented with a problem situation or this question. How would you describe yourself in 3 adjectives? That could come up. Not only that, what are your strengths and weaknesses? So the students often say, well, I'm not really good at, no. turn your weakness into a strength.
The matter is that we have differences in our cultures. So in Russian culture, we are not used or we are not accustomed to show off, like to boast about our
Showing off.
accomplishments.
Yes, and boasting. Oh, English, we are rude. We're politely rude. Sorry.
It's kind of tricky sometimes when students try to prepare for a certain exam. I think that most of them absolutely forget about anything not connected with the exam, so that they need to have extensive reading, like reading for pleasure, not just doing the exam tasks from time to time. What's your view on that? What's your stance on that?
I don't only focus on the exam structure. I detract from it sometimes entirely. I'll be like, all right, today we're learning sleep vocabulary.
Well, it
and
can come up.
I help them apply it, and I will throw in a cue card. Yeah, I'm like, okay, now we've studied it. Here's your cue card.
Yeah, because without preparation, yeah, sure.
And I don't time them yet. I say, take as much time as you want. I mute my mic. I tell them, mute your mic. Make note. I want you to show me them later. And then they talk, and I let them talk. Very often, I'll have them talk for shorter than 2 minutes, and then I'm like, do you know that in the exam, you've got to talk for longer? So rather be cut off by the invigilator rather than talk for too short a time. So I give them little strategies on how to answer the cue card, also based on, verb tense. Get through the WH questions. How long have you lived there? When did you move? What? And so on.
And do you think there are some vocabulary items, some collocations that will definitely impress the examiner? Like, do you provide your students with the golden list, so to say, like universal ones?
No. No, a golden list. I would say that the golden rule is to abide by the law of grammar. Collocation occurs as it does in its natural habitat. You might have adverbs and adjectives that naturally collocate. Put together a couple of ideas that you might want to use for every cue card if you'd like. Call that your golden list. It's bitterly cold. Frequently observed. Put these together and don't use slang. Oh, headache again. I've had a few students that think they can get away with using slang or colloquial language no. Learn proper English and just learn topical vocabulary. Instead of saying, oh my word, it's cold and it's raining really hard, get rid of really or very. Instead of really or very, use an idiom or use an adverb. Oh my gosh, it's pouring down in buckets, or it's raining cats and dogs. Or I remember the day when my grandmother came to visit. It was raining cats and dogs. And
oh, really? Do you use such idioms in your life? Like, do you hear people saying?
I do, yes. Well, I haven't heard a lot of South African Afrikaans people use it, no. But yes, we do say it's pouring down, raining cats and dogs, bailing down in bucket loads.
Okay, just maybe it depends on the region or something.
Yeah.
I thought that it is outdated already.
No. Oh, goodness grief. No.
Okay. So
No, I'm not that old. Okay,
for sure.
I am a chatterbox.
So am I.
That's why you should never, ever, ever talk to me. You will never get away.
But it was a pure pleasure, you know. Like, thank you so much. I'm so happy that we finally managed to meet, to talk, and even to record.
After all these years.
Yeah, I
So,
think you know, like,
you haven't changed one bit, you know, Elaine. You look exactly the same. How do
really,
you do it?
like,
What is this Russian secret?
did I
No,
really
it's
use,
true.
like, you know, did I really use
But
a
I think
webcam?
you had a fringe though. You had like a fringe.
Yeah, I do, but you know, like
you
I'm
toned it
afraid.
aside.
Yeah, I'm afraid that my
That's
forehead
pretty.
is like it's huge. And I
No,
try,
you look absolutely stunning.
and I try to cover it.
Is that why you had a fringe? Oh, Elena, you are so silly. No, you are very beautiful. It's
Thank
true.
you so much.
Yeah.
You know, it just I think that when I started working online, I was so shy that I would even conduct interviews with my camera off. So
Oh, shit. Oh, you know, I tell you, see, I'm still shy. I am. I'm painfully shy, actually.
so just
That's why I get so awkward. You know,
you know,
I
just
just
like
can't help. It's never going
I
to go
had
away.
lessons without webcam. I would prefer people not to see me, and I would, you know, I would give
Oh.
myself an excuse as if it helps me to concentrate on listening more.
I've done that too, but it does actually. It's like saying, like, if you're Catholic and you say the rosary with your eyes closed, it actually does really, because
Sorry, could you please repeat that same?
yeah, I said it's like saying the rosary when you are Catholic. You close your eyes and you pray with the beads. You focus on touching them rather than looking at everything around you and the
Mm-hmm.
beads. It's like prayer beads, you know. The same thing goes with online teaching, actually. Like if I am not on video, you're more likely to pay attention to how I sound, my pronunciation, rather than how silly and awkward I look.
But you look
So,
okay. So just why should you?
see, it's quite different. You do have a point. You know,
Well,
I still have students that don't want to do camera, so I don't. So we work without a camera. It does not get in the way of learning. I have a student from France. I won't mention names. I have worked with her for 10 years since I began teaching online with that company, initial one. And we don't use camera. And now I teach her children. And
with
we don't
camera.
use camera. No, we don't. They don't want to. They're teenagers.
Oh, okay.
And
But
they're not naughty. I have a naughty teenager that I use camera with, and do you know what he does? He plays Minecraft while we're in the lesson.
But you know what? I would say that it's one thing when both of you do not use a webcam, but when you are using a webcam and you cannot see your students, it's kind of strange and awkward.
I've got some students from Saudi Arabia who don't use camera.
So
We can
because
understand why.
now I give group lessons to teenage boys. And you know, sometimes when they turn off the camera, I ask them, could you please turn it on? Because I want to see everyone.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
especially if they mute their microphones and they turn off their webcams, yeah, you have no idea whether they actually are there or they left their rooms.
I've learned how to look at the naughty little boy and see that he's like building a cat on Minecraft. Like, stop building animals or wombats or focus. Today we are doing countable and uncountable food nouns. Yummy. concentrate.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't talk like that, but yeah, I've called his mother before. I've been like, Irina. Thank you, Irina. Look at his Minecraft, right? Yes. Please stop him. Please stop. Thank you. Good. I've had to do that before. Yeah.
Yeah,
Apparently,
unfortunately.
I'm not fun enough for all of them. You will have one or two in your lifetime that do that, and they can multitask. Okay? Minecraft and uncountable nouns. I will never understand how. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, Elena, I'm stealing your time.
But thank you so much. And yeah, I really appreciate every second of this interview. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.